Welcome everyone to the Labyrinth. We are live today and we're having a show on the rites of passage and the coming of age ceremonies that are really lacking in today's society. Now, before I get started too far, any requests for rune readings we will take in the second half of the show. Anyone who'd like to call in on the topic can call in at any point. And if we make it to the second half and we don't have any callers for rune readings, I'll move on to another topic equally related to rites of passage and equally related to spirituality. So, as it is right now, our society lacks rites of passage, and this is one of those things that I've really struggled with in my life, and I know a lot of people have. And I've watched children grow from mere infants to full adulthood. Over the past few years, I've taken note of the struggles that they've had and the difficulties they've had coming to terms with the world they live in. And there are a lot of troubles in this world. I think the first thing I should say is that a rite of passage can be a trial, it can be a test, but it can also be, as I said before, kind of a coming of age ceremony. Oftentimes the requirements are more symbolic, and the results are likewise symbolic. And to give a basic example, and I'll go into more of this, okay? The rites of passage often for a woman are her first period and her first brawl, and this is to a degree built in. And that's not to say women don't need more rites of passage, they do. In fact, they need just as many as men do. And that's seen in our society to a degree. During the wedding, that's a major rite of passage for many women in many parts of the culture. What it results in is that, it's really her day. And for the guy, we really do kind of tag along a lot of times. We're there, tux, we got a best man, we have a big drinking party, but that doesn't really equate a rite of passage, not from the masculine view. So, one of the things we deal with this is that young men in our society, and young ladies also, especially young ladies that are more of the tomboy, more of the fighter, really never know when they've reached that point in society where they're an adult. They really never reach that point where they feel that they fit in. And we can see this in the media. We can see this every day. 14-year-olds toting guns around and shooting each other. Come on. We know why it's happening to a degree. We don't want to address it. We don't want to mess with the culture. We don't want to say that this is important. Because as soon as you say something like rites of passage are an important thing that we've lost, oh no, you're suggesting that some religion might be useful. And I am definitely not the guy who's going to tell you do this religion or that. In fact, I usually tell you do whatever you want. But I am the guy who's going to tell you that the ceremonies built into many of the religions have an orienting purpose. They really kind of let you know that you're there. And like I said, I know I lacked it. My rite of passage didn't come till about a year ago when I fought my first match, my first boxing match. And it was just a tough man competition, but what really happened was I walked in there a scared child and I walked out a man. And was it a fun experience? Yeah. Was it the end-all be-all? No, there were other things I could have done as a rite of passage, but it's what was available to me. And it's something that I really regret not having had with my own father. And I know a lot of young men out there and a lot of young ladies that regret not having that rite of passage with, with their parents. So what I'm really aiming at here is that this is one of those things that we need in society. And I'm gonna kind of hit on some of what a rite of passage teaches. The first rite of passage that any young person comes into, and the reason I say young person is we cannot call them a child. Okay, I'm sorry. When they hit puberty, they stopped being a child. They're still your kid. I know the people out there listening are there saying, but that's still my baby, and they will always be your baby. Okay, trust me, I was always my mother's baby. But at the same time, they've reached a point now where they are starting to enter the world as your equal. And nothing has been done to show that. Nothing has been said, that while I am still the adult, I am still the figure of authority, you are now on a level comparative to me. You are reaching a point where you understand the world. You're reaching a point where we understand that you're having trouble dealing with the world. Nothing is done. So what do the children do? I shouldn't say children, I should say young people. What do? Well, since they are still children, they haven't been made into young people yet. They haven't been made into young adults. They're being left as children. They do what children do. They throw tantrums. They get upset. They become violent. They become aggressive. And what they're really doing is they're saying, I'm in pain. Look at the world I live in, and I'm in pain. I go to a building where I'm told learn things that no one explains to me why. I'm told this is right and this is wrong, but no one shows me that I fit into society. What do we do to kind of draw that line for these young people? We don't. Not in this society, not as it stands right now. Now, there are some cultures within the society that still do. And for those cultures, you will note that the amount of violence in their young people lessens. The amount of understanding their place kind of fits in. And that's not to say that anyone in any culture can't be messed up. It's not to say you're not going to have problems in every culture. But the thing is, at least you're having problems with a stable individual you can work with who now knows that they have a place in life. They know they belong, okay? And I really want people to think about this. When you say we don't need rites of passage, when you say we don't need these things to show them that they've reached that point, at the very least, you say we don't need the very first ones when they hit not necessarily puberty, but the age range of puberty. I mean, don't get me wrong, you don't gotta, as soon as they hit puberty, be like, all right, it's time to throw a party. Don't mortify the young person. But, within that time frame, 12 or 13, you need something to show that they are now entering the world of adults, that they are now reaching the same things that we deal with on a daily basis as adults, and that it's okay, that we're there for them. We understand what they're going through, and we're proud of them. We're proud of them for making it this far. We're proud of them for being an adult. We're proud of them for reaching that stage where they're becoming an adult. We don't have that. We lack it. We lack it, and then we talk about how far our Western society has come. We have all of these people that are just, they're lost. The young people are. And every generation it gets worse and worse because those rites of passage are taken away. And I'm going to go through some simple rites of passage that we had for a while, and that to a degree some young people still experience in the same way. Driving a car for the first time. Used to be, and a friend of mine at work, I asked him about this, his thoughts on it. He brought this up. Driving a car used to be something, your mother or father taught you, and they said, look, I'm proud of you. You're now at the age where you have the majority to do this. You have the physical height, the physical strength, and the mental awareness to operate this 1-ton or 2-ton killing vehicle safely. And I believe in you to do this, and I'm going to help you do this thing. That used to confer to it a mighty responsibility. A mighty power was being passed down through the family. That's like saying, my father held this sword, and now you hold this sword as I held the sword. That's what really passing down the ability to drive was in our society for a time. And now, what do? We say, oh, yeah, but we can teach that to them in school. They can learn that in school. We just send them to school and they can learn how to drive. I get that people don't always have time. I get that within that you may have to be forced to have someone else help teach them. But you should be there at least for their very first day with their license. It should be something great. It should be something grand. It should be something worth taking 10 minutes out of your day to go with them down to the DMV and drive back with them in the driver's seat. It should be worth that. It should be that kind of thing. And many people do that. And sometimes that ceremony is lost on the young person because our society looks at ceremony of all kinds and says, that's frooey, that's useless. They look at society and they say, we have no place. We have no place for this ceremony. It's nothing. It has no scientific basis. Well, it has a psychological basis. It has a psychological basis of saying, I am entrusting you my child with this thing, and it's lost. You know, getting a license is just something people do. Deal with it. All right. Now, I'm not going to condone underage drinking, okay? But I recall a time in history when a child's first taste of alcohol was done at the home. It was a symbol of coming to adulthood. It was a sign. Yeah, you knew they were probably going to sneak out and drink when you weren't there, when it wasn't safe. Now, even the law takes that away. They say, oh, no, you gave them a sip of something, you know, we're going to lock you up, we're going to fine you, we're going to make you pay, because we'd rather them go out, we'd rather them get drunk and poisoned and die, rather than, you know, be in a controlled environment where you could pass your trust on to them. Because who knows, if you'd pass that trust on to them, maybe we would prevent one death. It's silliness. It's silliness, and it's yet what we impose upon those young people. It's a silliness brought forth by a need to really, I guess the word is homogenize the society, to really take something out of it. We want to get rid of the old gods. We want to get rid of the old ways. We want to get rid of the old traditions. We want to sterilize. Thank you, David. David writes sterilize in the chat room. We want to sterilize society and remove those things that make us human. You know, used to be that a father taught a son how to fight. Maybe not very well, you know. The old man takes and, you know, puts some gloves on you and you throw a few swings at some mitts and you still aren't really able to do it, but at least you had faith in yourself then. We've lost that too. Oh no, we don't want them fighting this society. We'd rather let the person who's bigger and stronger and has been getting beat up for whatever reasons they got beat up for, probably by their parent. We want them to go out and teach your child how to fight, you know, by beating the crap out of them every day. That's the rite of passage in our society. We don't bring them into young adulthood. We knock them back down into infancy. And then we wonder, why did that child snap? We wonder what happened in Columbine so many years ago. You know, when that event happened, that big turning point, people said the U.S. will never be the same. And I looked at it and I said, well, you know, if the U.S. had been the same as it was, maybe it wouldn't have happened. Maybe things would have been done differently. But instead, what we wound up with was a terrible incident with dead children. We wound up with an incident where adults had to fight children to save lives because a rite of passage was never included, perhaps. There were other factors, I'm certain. I'm not going to say a rite of passage solves everything, but I know many people who are older, in their 50s, who've gotten into trouble, 50s and 60s. Heck, I know a few people in their 70s, and I talk to them and I say, what was it like? They say, well, the thing I remember was my father taking me out to hunt the first time. Really? What was that like? And they look at me and they go, what do you mean, what was it like? You don't remember? No, never happened. I talk to people, I remember my father passing down his knife that his father owned to him. Wow, what was it like to have something passed down like that? They're like, what, you don't know? No. My father passed down to me insecurities, pain. He passed down to me very little because the society told him that passing down ceremony was wrong. It said that the ceremony had no value. It said the only thing worth passing down was knowledge and determination. And while determination is an important thing and knowledge is a valuable thing, it's worthless without spirit. For all the power you can amass, for all the knowledge you can gain without soul, you've got nothing. And really, a rite of passage is a way of sharing a soul between the parents and a young person. You know, I speak from the male point of view because I'm male. But I imagine it must be hard for the young ladies out there. You know, it used to be that they knew their mother would pass down the wedding dress to them, or they would pass down a unique piece of jewelry through the family line. Something was kept to be passed down to the daughter. Something to show that she had entered womanhood more than just a biological change, but as a person. Now what's passed down is a talk. The talk. That's our rite of passage now, folks. The talk. That's it. And the talk consists of this. Well, oh, it's one of two talks. Either the first one, well, there's the birds and the bees. And this talk never makes any sense to the child. They remain a child, and then usually they wind up pregnant in an early age because the talk makes absolutely no sense. And then, the birds and the bees pollinate. And then, eventually the pollination becomes a procreation. Yeah, with talks like that, we wonder why the population boom has hit so hard, why so many young people are pregnant. Or the other talk, the talk that sounds like an emperor, an overlord, striking down a subject. You're going to go out there, you're not going to have sex, you're not going to do anything, and if you do, you're going to wear protection, and if you don't, I'm going to be on you like white on rice and a glass of milk in a snowstorm. What? Come on now. Seriously? Whatever happened to a parent passing down more than just that little bit of information? Whatever happened to a parent passing down a bit of themselves to their child? Are we in a society that has become so restricted and so restrained that you don't want to pass anything on to your children? Is this what we've come to? No, that's not it. Because you know what? The topic started from a concerned mother, a friend of mine, and some issues that she's been having with her young son. I'm not going to name names, but what I am going to say is that I understood that the rite of passage, while it may have been an effort to include it, society has denounced it, and therefore this woman fights against that society. She fights against the society that says this rite of passage, any rite of passage is wrong. It's not right. And it drills that into the young mind. Who needs a rite of passage? Who cares where your father took you? Took me to the old fishing spot that his father took him to. Who cares about that? That doesn't matter. It's not a bigger car. It's not a faster boat. Doesn't make a bit of difference. You know what, though? It's what's really important. And it's what should be being focused on in a young person's life. Because they are young people. I talked to some other people at work. And David brought up the military, and that's a good point. I actually talked to another friend of mine, a female friend. One of her rites of passage was the military. And you know what I found? A lot of people who go in the military, that is their rite of passage. That means that for many of the young people out there, they don't get a rite of passage. And they don't get a rite of passage until they're under fire. Until someone is shooting at them, they are not made to be an adult. That's wrong. That's a fault in society. That is something that needs to be changed. You can't look at something like that and say, this is right. But that change starts with us. That change starts with the people listening here today. That kind of change is what happens when someone says, you know what? I'm going to make sure my son has a rite of passage. Or if you don't have a son, I'm going to talk to my friends about their child's rite of passage. You know what? I've got a really good friend. He talks to me and he says, I'm going to make sure that my son, as soon as he's big enough to ride a four-wheeler, knows how. And I said, why? Do you think that you're going to be letting him on it by himself? He said, oh, no, I'm not that stupid. I said, but, he says, I'm also wise enough to know that he's going to go out one day when I'm not there. And I want him to know enough that he's safe. And I want him to know that I trust him enough to come back alive. Now that is handing down something to a child and making them a young man. That is passing down trust, passing down faith, passing down honor, passing down responsibility, passing down dignity. And that is what makes a young person become an adult. And I say a young person. And I say that because a young person is one step away from an adult. It's like ranks in the military. You start as a child and you advance. You grow. You become stronger. You become better. But how do you know? You can train your entire life in the military. If they don't give you a rank, you're not going to feel like you've done anything. Those ranks are there not only to create a pecking order, not only to kind of say, yeah, you're here and this person's there and you can tell them what to do, but they're there to say, we recognize what you did. We recognize that you went out and you fought. We recognize that you went out and you cared for the sick and wounded. We recognize that you took the dangerous missions. We recognize you went places where no one else wanted to go. And no wonder that becomes a rite of passage for so many young people. We live in a society that's become digitized. We live in a society where technology has taken over. We throw out the old gods for the new. We throw out Thor. We throw out Jesus. We throw out everything. And what do we throw it out for? Corvettes. Corvettes, yes, that's right. Not just Corvettes. I have nothing wrong with the company that makes Corvettes. But we throw it out for the bigger, flashier things. We throw it out for those things that really define who we are. We throw it out for those factors in the human soul that start with the rite of passage, that start with someone passing something down. You know, I missed the rite of passage from my father, but I did get rites of passage from my mother. She was there. She took me to my first karate class. She was there, and she taught me how to play the piano. She was there with me when I did my homework. So, in a sense, maybe I wasn't as bad off as a lot of the kids out there. The thing is, though, even when you do all those things, there's nothing that symbolizes an adult to a child. There's nothing that lets them know they've made that leap, and we need that. Now, I went on and on about what is needed and why. And it becomes pretty obvious. But think about some other things. When a young person is in school, they are lorded over with power, and that is the nature of the system. It cannot be changed. How do they know that they're starting to become an equal? When do we tell them, you have risen to a degree? You know, I said my first rite of passage came last year, but when I think back to it, no, my first rite of passage came right after my mother's death. Some would say that is a rite of passage, surviving that. But again, I did not really have a father, not in the sense that mattered. But I remember my teacher taking me out on a four-wheeler ride to get my mind off of everything that happened. But at the same time, it was a rite of passage. He sat there and he said, after he showed me what to do, he said, I trust you with this. I know that when we go out there, you're going to come back. I know that I'm going to put you in charge of this 800 or whatever pound death machine. We're going to go out there. We're going to ride around. We're going to come back safe. And you're going to have had a good time. And I trust you enough to do it because you are a man. In a lot of ways, that shaped who I am. It showed me that even when you're afraid of something, you can go forward into it. That fear that exists is simply an anxiety, simply a mention of danger. It is your mind saying, that little thing over there could kill you. Be aware and go forward with bravery. But we don't have that for most young people. Instead, what we have is mommy's too busy or daddy's too busy. Worse yet, we have situations where mommy and daddy are not too busy, but because of the society that has been created, the rites of passage that are given are looked down upon by that young person's peers. Why? Because their parents look down upon it. Because when that child comes home, and they are still a child despite how they affect your young man or your young woman at your home, when they come home and they say, Mom, why have you not shown me how to put on makeup, how to wear jewelry, how to do something? They say, well, that's just because their parent likes to baby them. Bull. That's not because their parent likes to baby them. It's because they love them. Because they want them to grow into that powerful person, to take the power of adulthood. But they get ridiculed for it. And that is the sad thing. But when enough people do enough to change something, when they say, you go and you hold your head proud, then it becomes something different. It becomes an expectation. Soon, with enough people embracing such an idea as rites of passage, as the advancement of the self, then the question becomes, instead, why don't you do this, parent? Instead of the answer being, that's because they baby them, it's because, I don't know. I never thought to, I'm sorry. Let's find something to do. That is the proper answer. I don't know is not a bad answer. If you have not done a rite of passage with your young person, that is not a bad thing. There is still time. There is always time to make a difference. But what do? I know there are people out there that are listening. There are people, when they hear this later on, will be listening and they will say, what do? What can I do in this world? Have you ever taken them out for their first drive? Well, that's impossible if they're already driving. Have you ever went on a drive with them just to drive? Just to drive somewhere, to a lake, to enjoy the scenery, to have a talk, to pass down some of the wisdom that you've gained over the years. You're there, you're alive, you've made it through some tough stuff, I know. Why not say, hey, let's go for a ride, you're driving. I want to talk. I want to go out there and spend some time with you, alone, with the rest of the world, separated, so that you know that I'm passing down what I have to give you. If only it's knowledge, if nothing else. For the boys out there, the young men, why not their first knife? You know, people don't like knives in this society. It's a weapon. Oh, it's a weapon. It's a weapon. Baseball bat's a weapon too. But we let people run around them with a field and play a game. Oh, we can't give them a knife. That's symbolic of pain. No, that's symbolic of survival. That's symbolic of craft, of the ability to take and make things. It's a symbol. You know, there was a time when a father passed down a sword to his son. Now, fathers were known for lying. You've got to understand this. They really were. And the reason I say that is because they would go to their blacksmith and they would buy a new sword as the old one had rusted. And they would say, this is the sword of my father. And you know what? It was like Santa Claus. But it was important. But it was something they were able to pass down. And yeah, the young man or young woman understood that grandfather never used a sword with a hilt like that. They didn't exist. It's a newer technology. But it meant something. It meant that I want you to know that the strength that was passed down from my father, I passed down to you. That you can go back through the generations, back to when we were not much more than the beasts that we fought to survive from. But there was still family. There was still heart and there was still love between us. And I'm passing that down to you from all those generations. That's what that meant. Came a time when swords came out of fashion. Guns do that. The gun doesn't have the same symbol, and so the gun was not often passed down, except in the case of the rifle, which was passed down from father to son. But the knife was always passed down, for a man often had many knives. If he had many children, therefore it was easy, but not easy, for each knife was different and each child was different. Care was given to the choice of what was passed down. Thought was employed. What will they use this for? My son is a craftsman. He works with wood every day. I should pass down the knife that I use to work with wood to him, so that he knows that the strength that was in my hands, even if I was a poor craftsman, that strength of character, that personality has been passed down to him, so that he knows he can stand against the roughest of winds and not bend or break, just as the crafts he makes will not bend or break. My son is a hunter. I have a knife for hunting. This will show him that the same spirit that showed me to be a hunter as my father was will show him. There was a question that was asked, when does the axe of your father or of your grandfather cease to be the axe of your grandfather? And it's an old paradoxical question. And it starts with your father or George Washington. It says, you know, the axe of my father, or my father's father, the axe of my father's father was the axe of my father. He replaced the stock and I replaced the blade. I ask you this. What was really passed down? It wasn't a piece of wood with a piece of metal attached to it. It wasn't just some hunk of steel anchored to some handle. What was passed down was heart. What was passed down was humanity and dignity. Why is this important? Because heart, humanity, and dignity are the things we use that keep the animal savage part of us at bay. When a young person enters the majority of their adulthood, when they start to go through those changes of life, it is a confusing merry-go-round. It is painful. It is torturous. All of these things they feel they should be able to do. All of these things they feel they should have the right to do. All of the emotions they don't understand. And no one is able to reassure them. No symbol is given. Nothing is presented to them. Why can it not be? You may not have a knife of your own, but you can take your child to the store and you can help them pick one out. You can say, this knife, when it is bought, I will be passing down on to you. And then you will pass that down on to your child. We will start something here that will mean something for 100 generations down the line. You can make that choice. But what if it's not a knife? What if you're a person who disdains all knives? Then why can it not be a watch? A watch is an important thing. A good watch will last a lifetime. Why can that not be the symbol? Why cannot something be the symbol? Because we disdain symbols in this society. We don't want to pass down symbols. We have become so enamored with the idea of freedom that we forgot freedom means the freedom to pass those things down that we care about to our children. To pass down not just the idea of our faith, but a symbol of our dignity. And that symbol means something more than just what it is. An axe is a piece of metal and a piece of wood, bound together, oiled, made functional with a honed edge. But it's more when it's passed down to you. It means something then. We avoid that. We try to get around it. We don't like the feeling, the awkwardness. We know it's showy. We know it's showy to pass that thing down, and it makes us uncomfortable. We know that it is a little hokey. It is a little silly. Like that axe is going to carry your spirit. But that memory will. That piece of wood and metal may be replaced over the years, but the memory that comes with it, the importance, stays. You may replace the gears in that watch 100 times. The face may be broken and replaced. The hands may be broken and replaced, but the essence will live on forever. And that's what we need. We need to pass something down to the next generation. We look at the debt that we are sending them. We look at the world we created for them and we say, I feel so bad. What can I do? We worry about righting only the obvious problem. A $10 trillion debt. That's what we worry about, yes. We write that obvious problem and suddenly the world will be a better place. Suddenly our children will have guidance. That's not how you write the problem. You write the problem first by passing down that humanity, that passion, that fire, that thing that makes you great. You pass that down to them, and that will right the world. Because then that generation will fight as hard as we fight. Because then that generation will love life, will love the world so much that it cannot stand to see injustice. Or we can call it a silly thing. We can look at it and we can cry our little eyes and tuck ourselves into bed at night and say, I didn't pass anything down because I was afraid. So the choice then is, do you have fear or do you have love? The person who had the difficulty that told me of this, I have no doubt, is doing the best they can to pass something down to their child. I know them well. I know that they are giving what they can. But I am saying that it does take a village to raise a child. that we have lost contact with each other so much in this world, that we have lost that need to know our neighbor, that need to love our neighbor, to love our friends, that we don't pass down. I'll tell you what, I don't have any kids, but I have a few knives. And I have a friend who has a son. And when he reaches his majority, he'll get that knife. That'll be his. He'll say, that's from Uncle Chuck. Because it means something. Because he believes in me. Because he believes in the strength of the man I will become. And it will mean something to him. And one day he will pass it down to one of his children or to one of his friends' children. And it will mean something to them too. Because I won't be passing down just a piece of metal with a handle. I won't be passing down just a blade. I'll be passing down a bit of myself, a bit of my essence, to make sure that the generations that follow will know the power, will know the strength, will know what conviction is, and will know what love and mercy and kindness are. Because those things are what make mankind great. And if I can't pass that down to the next generation, then what have I done? Have I run and hid from the shadow within the self? Have I become so scared of connecting to people that I can't pass down that little thing? That thing that is so small that you cannot find it with a microscope. That it cannot be defined by science. That thing we call heart. What it boils down to is we have to pass those things down. I see in the chat room a very good point about children raising children. And this is part of why that happens. People have sex. Let's get that out there right now. It is part of being human. But at some point, that young man and young woman who copulated did not have the respect for themselves to want to do better. They were not given that. And if they were, then they made an honest mistake. It's true. But it's not too late for that baby. It's not too late for that child to have something passed on. Why is it when a young man fathers a child, instantaneously he is lifted to adulthood without the ceremony? Is he that scarred and that burnt that his father cannot hand down a piece of his heart to him then? If that's the case, then the society is wrong and it needs changed. But if that's not the case, if it's simply because someone didn't think to do it, then maybe hearing this now, they will think. Maybe hearing this now, they will pass something down. They'll say, yes, my son, who now has a son. Yes, my daughter, who now has a daughter. I pass this down to you. For while what you did was at the wrong time, it was not a mistake. It is a life. And I want this passed down to that life too. And I want it to go on for generations. And I want them to know the strength. So that my great-great-great-grandchildren know what it means to be strong and proud. And to know that I loved them even before they were born. That's what those things mean. That's what those things really mean. And it doesn't matter how old the young person is or how young they are. You may have a young person in your life that's in their 20s. It may be your son or daughter, and they still are not an adult. You may be saying, I've guided them as best I can. It may be true. Sometimes there's nothing more you can do, but at least give them something that when they pass it down to their children will say, look, I was not the best that I could be, but my mother, my father believed in me and gave me this to give to you because they believed in you even before they met you, even before they knew you. They knew you were going to turn out great. They knew I'd get my act together too because they had faith. We talk about faith in this world. People talk about faith They say, I have faith. I go to church every day. I have faith. I say, you have a habit. You went and sat at a pew and listened to some guy talk. If you had faith, it would show. It would be something brimming from you. You don't have faith in your children. You don't have faith in your friends' children or your children's children. Nope. You got faith, though. You got faith in your God, and yet you do nothing that he says. You've got faith in your religion, though you do not follow it. You have a habit then. Habits are easily broken. So what do you really have then? Maybe it's time to get some faith. Maybe it's time to get some faith and start with yourself. Know that there is that person inside of you that is great and is good and is strong and is deserving of having a good reputation. And then take that faith and put it also in your children. Know that they are good, that they are strong. You know what else my mom passed down to me? My mother passed down to me the belief that I am a good person. She told me, I know you're angry sometimes. I know the world makes you mad. But I believe in you. I believe you can be great. I believe you will touch people's lives. And I kind of smiled and said, oh gosh, Mom, you know, I don't think I'm that great. And she says to me, you're funny, you're witty, you're intelligent, and you really care about people. You may only touch 20 people's lives really deeply. You may only have 4 or 5 really good friends. But I believe you will extend part of that to them. You will give them part of yourself. And in doing that, they will be better for it. She was right. At the time, I didn't know how right she was. A friend of mine who's in the Marines, talked with him at work. And he said, you know, it wasn't until I went into boot camp that I realized how right my father was. When I went into boot camp, I was 18. And my father knew nothing, he says to me. My father was an idiot when I went into boot camp, but he was a wise man when I came out. You know, I think I know what it is. I think we're afraid that our children won't get it. And they won't. They really won't at that exact second. They won't get it until 10 years or 20 years later when they're sitting there and they're under the gun. When they have a problem they can't solve, they'll remember that you said, hey, you're awesome. You're my kid, so I know you're great. I don't mess up on stuff like that. And I know you're going to do great things. And I know this is not going to get you down. Or we can ignore them. We can put them in a corner. Shove a video game in their hand. Let them play. Don't talk to them. God knows you don't want to talk to them about right and wrong. That might instill virtue. We could do that. Or we could make a good choice. I'm not just talking about passing down things. I'm talking about passing down ideas. The thing represents an idea. It shows that it is solid to you. But it is not the idea in itself. I know a good many people, strong people, good people, who have passed down something to their children. Be it an idea, be it a ceremony, be it something simple. And in that, I have faith that their children will grow strong and good. But it's got to start. It's got to start in more force than just a few. If all of the people I know are only a drop in the bucket, then many more drops are needed. We can all make that difference. You don't have to be a parent to do this. but you have to do this. This isn't about today. This is about tomorrow. And this isn't about just what gets something that makes you feel good. This is about shaping the destiny of humanity. About passing down those virtues, those strengths that we hold to be self-evident. Those truths that we cannot find in an atomic particle smasher. Those truths that if you comb a beach are not yielded in the metal. That's what this is about. If we can't pass those things down, if we're too afraid, then we need to find courage. If we're too ashamed of the things we've done, then we have to find compassion for ourselves to become a strong person. All of us have lived lives we wish we could have lived better. All of us have done things we're not proud of. When you pass down part of yourself to your child, you pass down the part of yourself that you are proud of. And if you don't have one, make one. Start. Because you're not doing it for you. You're doing it for them. You know, we talk about things that people do. Miraculous things. An old woman lifts a car. Save a baby. I hear it all the time. It's the most often repeated thing. And I ask someone, do you think she could do it for herself? And they say, I don't know. I don't think so. Why is that? Because when you're fighting for someone else, it's more important. When you are extending love for someone else, it means more. So when you go and you take compassion with yourself to become stronger, to become better, do that for the children. Do that for your children and their children's children. Do that for your friends' children. I have a lot of things I'm going to be passing down in my life. And this is one of them, this idea, because it's important. I talked to another friend, has 2 daughters. He's a good father. He says, I don't know what traditions to have. I don't follow a faith, but I will have some. That's faith of the Spirit. It's faith of the self. It's knowing that your child is worth it. Maybe you can't afford Christmas this year, but you can all be together for Christmas. You can show your children that you love them for Christmas. Or you can put them in front of a video game. Put them in front of the TV. It'll teach them. It'll teach them that they're not worth anything. Put them in front of the television. It'll teach them. It'll teach them that there's no value to their life, that they can't make a difference, and that they're weak. They'll come up to you. They'll say, Mommy, Daddy, why is this so? Why is it the bad man wins in this movie? You have a choice. You can explain to them how the world works. And you can explain it that sometimes bad people win. Or you could explain it that there wasn't a person there who was good enough and strong enough, despite how good they may or may not have been, to make a difference. You pass down emotion. You pass down a bit of your soul to your children. It's up to you to choose what bit you pass down. And if you don't want to pass down anything, then you really need to take a deep, hard, long look in the mirror and ask what the point really is. I know parents like that too. And it's not anyone mentioned in any of the previous stories who will pass nothing down to their children. And I am appalled and I am shocked. And I tried to involve myself in those children's life. And I was told, you are not wanted here. And I left. I left with a heavy heart I left with a pain, but I left. But I do not give up. Right now, I'm reaching out across the world. My voice will be heard. Even in defeat, I am not beaten. But I am only one voice. And if I do not have others join me in that voice, then I am weak. And I will scream until I am so hoarse that I cannot talk. I will put forth all of my strength until I am broken. But I will be broken if others do not join in. Someone asked me what Nights of Awakening is all about. While my show is a spin-off in many ways, it is still part of Nights of Awakening. And the response was unsatisfactory that we gave. I said that we are continuing the tradition of Ashla, and that is true. The Ashla tradition is what we are continuing. We are passing down the strength that has been passed down to us by others. This is true. But it's more than that. We are making a rallying cry. We are drawing a line in the sand. We are saying this far, no further. We will not give in to the darkness. We will not give up. We will fight to the last breath for what we believe in. And we will do that in any way we know how. We will do that with spirit and compassion, justice, kindness, charity, dignity, and above all, humanity. So when I say that we have taken the Ashla tradition, that it's been passed down to us, yes, it has, and those things have been passed down to us too, and we will pass them down to others. That's what this show is about. That's what this program is about. So that's my answer. Someone asked, and there it is. That was the question that I heard, and this is the answer that I ring for you. We will be a light in the darkness. We will be the sound that echoes forth. You will know us. Good will embrace us, and evil will tremble. Because we will not stand down. We will not go quietly. There are some questions in the chat room. There's a question of whether it's a choice. And all of this is a choice. It really is a choice. You can choose whether or not to pass something down. You can choose whether or not to stand with us. You can choose whether or not to fight on the same side that we fight for. Because we do not fight for just one religion. We do not fight for just one path. We fight for the future. Yes, you can choose. The choice is ultimately either with us in some fashion, maybe not directly, but still with us in spirit, still with us in heart, still with us in action, or against us, to oppose the message that we present, to demand ignorance, to demand pain. You can choose that also. I would not suggest making the second choice. David, we're going to take a brief little rest here. David's going to play a little music for us. I'm going to come back. If we have any callers that want rune readings or any people in the chat that want rune readings.
How could I ever find participate. Don't reply. Think what to say. I truly cannot say. Two sets of rules apply. You will not ever lie. The random events I would see. Refuse for me to ever just believe. You want to know questions. It leads me to pretend. I want to know answers to make. They show me what to anticipate. Don't listen. What can explain? What do you participate? Don't reply. Think what to say. I truly cannot say.
We are back. I've seen angels request for a reading. I have drawn forth the bag of runes. I have tossed them forward. And what I see is that the first step is that your sense of justice, your sense of truth, that power within you that drives you forward must overcome stagnation. As I peer further into the runes, I see even greater things. I see that that same power must overcome opposition. You must learn what it means to be strong within. You must learn the motions of strength within the self if you are to progress further. Her question is how to better herself concerning her spiritual and general life. And I say to you, you must learn to be defended inside while still being part of the world. You must learn to embrace knowledge while still being fearful of being lulled into a false sense of joy. You must learn when and where to go against the flow. And yet, you must also learn when it is unsafe to move. In this, you will progress then. The heart of this is the strength of the self, represented by Tiwaz, the rune of Tyr, god of justice, in the old Nordic tradition. That is the core of what you must embrace, that strength. I shall now tell you a story that will help with this. when the Fenris wolf was running amok, when he was dangerous to the Nords, to the Nordic gods, they held council and asked what could be done. And one said if we could only trick him to hold still, we could bind him with chains. So Tyr said, I have a way to stop him, but all things require sacrifice, and I will give up much for this day. And he set forth with his companions, and they spoke to the wolf, and they said, Wolf, we wish to test the strength of our chains. We know you are great and powerful, and can break almost anything. And the wolf said, how do I know you will unbind me if I cannot break these chains? And Tyr said, I am Tyr, God of justice, defender of the weak, protector of all. And I will place my hand within your mouth. And if those chains are not unbound after you test them, you may bite down and remove my hand and take it from me. And the wolf agreed. And the chains were applied, and when he could not break them, everyone smiled except for Tyr. For he knew that one must give up often something to gain something. And he did that day, lost his hand. And he was known from that point forth as Tyr the One-Handed. And when I see that rune appear in a reading, I tell you, it has a certain level of presence beyond anything else. It tells me, especially when guidance is asked, that you must learn to give up a bit of something within yourself to grow stronger. That is what you must do. Did anyone else want any rune reading? That will be the question then. Because that is that reading. It is that simple. To grow stronger, one must give up something within themselves to grow stronger. To grow stronger, one must become uncomfortable. I will speak on strength for a moment, while David will talk with the other person who wants the rune reading. And they will present that within the chat room. And then I will present it to you first, folks. On strength, I first must say that it is only gained with sacrifice. I am one who craves strength, it is true. Before I did the show today, I worked out. I worked out hard. I worked out till my muscles were sore, till old injuries reminded me of their presence. And I worked out harder than that then. Covered in sweat and in pain, I laid there for a few moments. And I realized that that pain was good, that it was cleansing, that it meant I was gaining something. Yeah, I gave up some time. I gave up some comfort. But I have no doubt that that sacrifice will be equivocally exchanged. Houston is our next person asking a question. They would like to know what their purpose is and why it is so rough. It's a good question. As I pull my runes and put them back into the bag, I'll tell you I've devised a method for this earlier today. I did not know this question was coming, but it is the type of question to ask. And I call this method Thor's Hammer. It is a layout for the runes, starting with the spiritual. Each rune drawn represents what it represents. There is no merc staff in this. 4 runes are drawn first, representing the line of the spirit to the mind and body. For they are one. And as I draw these runes, I find much to the left-hand side as the hammer points downward. Shows me the spirit, as the left-hand path is often referred to as that of the spirit. But yet it exists within the right-hand path, and to the right-hand side, the runes I draw show me the physical. What I see here is a very complex reading, and it begins with stagnation. You know, KOA did a show about this last week. I highly recommend it. Stagnation is the enemy. It is the first enemy. The rune is Isa, the rune of pause, the rune of ice, and it is the core of the spirit. What you have right now, Houston, is an impasse within your spirit. You have a standstill. Time has paused. You are not moving forward, and yet you seek to move forward. Effort is applied. You look for the sight of Odin. You look for the vision of the future. But as we come closer to the physical, what becomes important becomes clear. You are in the wrong place at the wrong time. Your path is difficult because where you are at is not where you should be. You have physically located yourself in a place that is not conducive to who you are. The final rune leading up to the hammerhead, this would be the base of physicality, is Tiwaz, the rune of justice, the rune of Tyr. That says to me that the best advice for you is very similar to the best advice given previously. But advice must always be taken within route of what has come before. And this says to me that you must apply that fire, that passion, that sense of self, that inner strength to moving yourself physically and spiritually, to becoming stronger through sacrifice. Spiritually, though, for we will go with the spirit first, you must learn of protection. The rune that I see there is Alies, and it is a favored rune of mine. For that rune represents a barrier, but not a barrier that cannot be impassed to grow, but the shield that defends you. You must become strong, so strong inside, that you are naturally protected. You must become so strong within yourself that no harm can come to your soul. This says to me that where you're at now is a place of doubt within your path. You worry. And the next rune that I see exemplifies this. In fact, I was speaking of Alies while I was looking at Nafuz. That is to say, this rune is so important that it draws me to it. You must overcome the conflict within yourself. You must become one with yourself. Without that, you cannot progress. You may not progress without that. However, as is always, the last rune is the most important. And for your spiritual path, The last rune is Rytho. Rune of travel, of evolution, of change. Whatever spirituality you're in now, it may be the one for you, but not the way you're practicing it. Not with the way it has been instilled into you. Whatever it is you've been told to make yourself feel down, to make yourself feel beaten, is wrong. It is not correct. It is untruth. And you must move away from that. In all faith, in all religion, in all belief, there is some power. There are some good things in all of it. On your physical, as the hammer slams forward, as it always does, we have Laguz, the rune of water and flow, of healing power. You must take the time to heal. You must take the time to gain invigoration within the body. You must regenerate yourself. And in that, you must be willing to accept help, for help is near. There are resources, there are people, there are places that you can go to help your body become stronger. You must go to them. They are that important. They are so important that the gods themselves command that rune be there to tell you this. And in your reconstruction of the self, you must then find the self within your body. You must realize that the body is a divine thing. You must realize that the body is part of the spirit. Because without the body, you are but a thought. These things you must do. These things you must abide by. We have another question. This one from a very dear friend of mine. One of our fellow KOA hosts. Master Justin Bain has asked for a reading. I am touched. I am proud to be able to do this reading here today. I've known Justin for many years. I knew him back when we were, in a sense, young kids, in a real sense of it. We didn't know the world back then, but we did know that we fought for what was right, and we became good, fast friends, and those are the best kind. Today, I am glad to give you this reading, brother. He asks about his current spiritual focus. And I find the Hammer of Thor has become valuable. I have yet to use a technique that was this effective, that gave me such insight and clarity. So I shall use it again. The spirit begins only in the spirit, moving to the physical. As I draw forth the runes leading to the pinnacle, I see many interesting things. I see things that I find, I don't want to say comical, but knowing Justin, they make sense. In a good way, a really very good way, my friend. As I proceed forward, I have completed drawing the path of spirit. I draw the hammer first. For when I am doing this, I am channeling the power of Thor with these runes. I trust his guidance. He asks no sacrifice from me. He wishes only to lend his powerful insight, his godly knowledge. And so my hand is guided, and so I tell you this, in your spirit. Sorry, I just read the chat room. And I will not repeat what Master Bane has said, but I will laugh at his sarcasm. Justin, I know you better than anyone, so when I say that at the core of your spirit, the power of masculinity, manly virtue is there, you're rolling your eyes and saying, Chuck is playing games. And I'm not. I really am not. That is the rune that came up. It is a funny thing. Uruz. Physical strength, the power of the wild ox, untamed potential. That is what is at your core. But leading as it does forward, it is restrained. You worry too much. You distress too much about who you are. You look in the mirror too often and say, I am strong, but how strong am I? While your core is an untamed animal, just above that within the spirit, you lose some faith in yourself. And yet, all of your physical power comes from all of your physical self. Oh, that was David? Well, it still fits, brother. I hate to tell you. I'm reading for the wrong person. I'm still getting the right reading. How sad is that? I thought I was hitting on something deep here for Justin. And you know the worst part is I started this reading out for Justin, so I'm going to finish it for Justin. David, you're coming up next. Oh, no, okay. Apparently, they're playing games back and forth in the chat room with the names and numbers. We're going to have to work on getting a better host name for them. But that's okay. So I'm still reading for Justin. Okay, that explains a lot. Especially explains the part on the physical side, which I'll be getting to. I didn't think you were apt to go swinging at people, David, but we'll get into that later. Justin, started this reading for you, and by the gods, I'm going to finish it for you. Brother, your power comes from your insight. Your physical strength comes from you knowing your own future, knowing your own destiny, although you would deny it. You would avoid it if you could. You would say, I am not a man of great spiritual power. I am just some man who hits things that anger him. And that would be a lie. You have within you the same forces that Odin uses to see clearly into the future. But they are within your physical self. They are within that thing that tugs within you and tells you in your body, not just in your mind, but in the essence of your physical body. But now we move onto the hammer side of the spirit. This is the active power in your life. This is the force of change and destruction. And in that, we have Ophala, that which is inherited, that which has been passed down to you, following it. We have male fertility for a guy with so many daughters. I laugh every time the runes are completely correct on something, because it's always a breath of fresh air. The runes are honest with you. Man will lie and the runes will tell the truth. It is a time for you to learn to rest in your spirit, to let go of your anxiety, to realize that you are the man that everyone thinks you to be. That all of that faith that is put into you is worthy. It is there because it is deserved. And finally, on the part of the Spirit, the part you must understand is that your greatest strength comes from friendship. What I see in that rune is Geva, the rune of friendship, the rune of gifts. What are friends? They are friends. What are friends? They are people who give gifts to one another, gifts of the soul, of the spirit, of the heart. That is in your strength. For you give to others some of your strength, and you take from others some of their strength, and you wage forward in spirit with that strength of family, of friendship. Your battle cry is not for justice. Your battle cry is not for honor. Your battle cry is for friends and family. And that is as it should be. And that is where your strength comes from. And that should be your battle cry. Now on to the physical. And I say this with a bit of humor, because as I thought for one brief moment, as David and Justin are very similar. If you know them truly, you know they are both men who desire good in this world. And therefore, any reading for them would look similar. I looked at this rune and I said, that cannot be David. David does not want to deck people that badly. The runes know who they're being read for. My hand moves in accordance with Thor's will, his essence. Therefore, Tiwaz does appear as the first rune to remind Justin that his body is a tool for justice, that his path physically is as a tool for justice, that his purpose is honor, leadership, authority, a willingness to fight for what he believes in, no matter what the cost. The body is transitory. What is an arm to tear? It reminds me to tell him to break through any weakness. If you have anything in your body that is weak, make it strong. If you have anything you don't like, make it better. Justin, for you, spiritually, your physical body must be made stronger. You must break through whatever stagnations hold you down, and you will. But Thor's hammer does not lie. This will lead you to a path of cycles, a path of flow. For flow results in victory. I see in the last rune of the physical, Jera, the good harvest. You will have the good harvest. But only if you break through. Only if you put effort can you harvest. You must hang on to your hopes, your expectations, and your prosperity. You must learn that success is there, that life has cycles, and you must learn to bend your physical world to those cycles. Thor's hammer is chosen for these readings, because Thor's hammer represents the power of creation and destruction. It is said to have helped make the world, and it is said that it will help remake the world. And I'm telling you that to look at this hammer in this way, to look at you in this way, to look at these runes, that Justin, you are a part of that. You must strengthen the body to strengthen the spirit. You must heighten the resolve within yourself. You must be as good as you know you are. And you must be the man you already know yourself to be. I look at this reading, and I know Justin too well. Right now, he's sitting back and he's laughing. He's going, damn, Chuck nailed it right on the head. And it's because these are things I know that are already in him. I can say this with conviction because the runes say it, and I know they do not lie. But I can say it also because I know this man, and I know of his strength. I know of his courage. For those listening out there, if you have a question, bring it to us. If you have a need, tell us what the need is. Ask for the best advice. Ask for knowledge of the path. These are the things the rune can give. The runes do have their limits, though. I cannot tell you the age of your long-lost aunt. I cannot spell out the name of your next husband. And it would be a fool of me to try. The runes are guided by the flow of the world. They are the sight of Odin. They are the strength of the human soul. But as I have said in the past, these things we do, this power within us, is to change the odds. Yes, you can sit in your couch eating potato chips, and you might gain muscles. At the very least, you might gain the muscles used to control the arm for the chips. But it's not likely. If you want to be strong, do things to make yourself strong. If you want to be fast, do things to make yourself fast. If you want to be successful, do things to strengthen your success. But if you want to know what those things are, then you ask the runes. If you're uncertain of the next step, that is the place for the runes. If you want to know the name to put on your license plate, call someone else. While I could give you a very interesting set of runes to put on there, it would be an insult. If you want to know when you're going to die, David, I kid, I have to. First rune reading, I do. He writes in the chat, my eyes turned away from the screen in concentration in the depths of power. And as I'm there saying, don't ask when you're going to die, I look over at the cat and 5 minutes earlier. It says, I want to know when I'm going to die. Oh, but you know what? It's entertaining. And I believe the gods have a sense of humor. And it is good for us to all make fools of ourselves and to make fun with each other in that way. I know I do. Power comes from the heart. The runes are part of that. Now I get to tell you all the little secret before I started this. I said, runes, I have a difficult task ahead. This is important. The people need to know what it is they must do. And I am but one man. For all of my strength, for all of my conviction, for all of my courage, it rests in a human body. I am flawed. Tell me, what should I do? And I laid down the hammer of Thor. The first reading you heard was not the first reading I did. I asked it for guidance in the show, and it said, overcome stagnation. And it pointed out the paths of strength in the physical, in the spiritual. And what I told you today was within accordance with the flow of the universe. It was guided by the runes. I did not just take you through a topic. I took you through the journey they told me to take you through. The topic I did choose as a flawed but courageous human being. The rune did guide my essence. I think we've had a good show for today. But we're not quite done yet. Because there is one topic I want to tackle. One topic I want to take victory from still. And with half an hour left, that's about the amount of time you spend in a fight, in a boxing match. I think I've got just enough time to take on fear. Fear itself. The great enemy. You know, I'm a fearful man in my own way. When I attack, I'm afraid that I'll be hit. When I'm protecting someone, I'm afraid they'll die. And yet, when I step into the ring, I'm afraid I'll hurt someone. But fear is awareness. When it is only awareness, then it gains usefulness. A friend of mine said, I think too much. I disagree. What I don't do is realize my own strength and why it works the way it does. I told him I charge in to battle with fear in my heart. And he said, I don't see how that works. I don't see how that's possible. I don't see how you can run forward with every step swinging and have fear. And I said to him, I don't either. But I understand it. I meditated on this. I looked within myself. And I realized that that fear is there not to stop me, but to drive me forward. Because I am so terrified that when I dodge, I have to make certain I am not hit. I have to have that as such a certainty that the fear cannot exist. I have to be certain that when I protect someone, I don't let them die. Because that fear is there to tell me that if I do, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. And I have to be certain when I attack that I end it. Because the fear tells me that if I don't, that if I hold back, I am dishonoring myself. I am dishonoring my brothers at Ashla. I am dishonoring every path I've followed. I'm dishonoring my gods. And so, I look at fear, my faithful friend, my ever stalwart companion. I recognize it for what it is. It is that presence that exists only to make me strong. It is there not to be a paralyzing factor. It is there to be overcome. It stands there because it wants to be overcome. It presents itself because it needs to be overcome. Otherwise, it would leave once you're paralyzed. Those out there today listening, and those who will listen in the future, I know you're afraid. We all are. There are things that scare all of us. In the depth of your soul, I know now there are fears. And the worst part is you're afraid of those fears. That's the first fear you must overcome. You must overcome the fear of fear itself. In doing that, you recognize that those other fears are simply places you wish to be strong. They are simply places you wish to grow stronger. And so, you must grow stronger. You must move forward. You must become the person you've always wanted to be. I know it might not be easy. You may be physically injured. You may not be mentally the best out there, the strongest mind, or the greatest body. I'm not going to tell you that you're going to become the next Jack Dempsey, the next Deepak Chopra, or the next Albert Einstein. But I'm going to tell you that no matter where you're at, you can grow stronger, and that fear is only standing there because some part of you wants it so bad that it's created a shadow man for you to fight against. You want it so bad you can taste it. Right now, listening to me, you know you want that strength so bad you can feel it. You want to be strong. You want to stand up for who you are. You don't want to be afraid of anything or anyone. That's why that fear is there. That's why it plagues you. Because you have not done something to be stronger. Because there's something you still want to do, even if it's just look at the fear, to know that it isn't real. And you've been avoiding it. Today, the message I send to you, the message that ties everything together, all of these rune readings, the first topic is to fight against fear. And then to pass down that strength that you've gained. We seek to awaken the night within. And on that journey, we must face fear. But one cannot awaken that night simply by themselves. They must awaken it in others also. For one night alone on the battlefield is not an army, although we may have to find times when we must be one. One night alone on the battlefield does not have the strength of a world, although there are times when you may need to be as such. But if we all put in our best effort, if we all try as hard as we can to grow strong, to help each other, to lift each other up when we are down, to show each other that we can be better than we were yesterday, that it won't be that we're on the battlefield presenting this great power all alone. We will not face the hordes, for we will be the majority. We will be the strength. We will be the light. We all have that choice to make. Each of the hosts of this show has made the choice to bring the light, even when that light appears as darkness. For the light I speak of is the light in the heart. That light has nothing to do with preconceived morals and everything to do with helping each other, with growing stronger, with being who we are and being comfortable with that, but wanting to be more and knowing that that want and drive is what lets us achieve. Throughout the week, other shows will air, and the message will always be there. Grow strong. I reach out to you. My fellow Knights of Awakening reach out to you. We want you to be strong. We want you to be ready to face the darkness in the world. We want you to have the power to make change in yourself. We want you to have the power to make change in others. We want you to awaken. We want you to strive and to grow. We want you to be the best that you can. We want you to awaken the night within.